Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about the biggest space wasters in your home. The top 10 items that I think everybody has in their home that arguably I think are just a waste of space. And they're just cluttering your homes and making them look really ugly. Whether that means that they are providing visual clutter, which is weighing your space down and just not making it look as interesting and fabulous as it could be, or like they're physically in the way. Like you're physically stumbling over some of this crap and you just need to get rid of it. So let's talk about the big chunky space wasters that you can think about getting rid of or repurposing, because I'm gonna give you some ideas on what to do with it. Let's get going. Okay, before we get to those things that are wasting space in your home, I wanna thank Koho, today's sponsor. I love Koho. I've been using Koho since 2018. Here is a screenshot of my app where little baby Nick has been using this to buy groceries since 2018. Koho is helping over 1.5 million Canadians make financial progress by giving them tools to make their money grow and make life better every single day. Koho is a Canadian MasterCard for spending that helps you make progress no matter where you're at. How I use it, again, make it your own, but I used it by loading money into my Koho account that I knew was allocated to spending on whatever I want. So I would always make sure that I was paying for myself, I was investing, I was saving, I was doing all the things I needed to do, but I was loading it all into Koho so that I could manage my spending better, because they have lots of tools in the app that is really helpful in being able to manage your spending appropriately. So click on the link in the description and use code NICKCOHO25 to get started, or you can always scan the QR code that you have right here and you can just get started right there. Thank you, Koho, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the rest of the video. Okay, first on my list is gonna be guest beds, and specifically guest bedrooms. This one is tricky and obviously comes down to personal circumstance. I actually would love to have a guest room. Like, I do see the appeal of having one, but I do think there needs to be a conversation here on the tubes about the idea that maybe guest bedrooms are a waste of space. Because I think, like, if you can find a way to use another solution as opposed to a dedicated bed or a dedicated guest room, then an alternative is probably going to be much better in terms of actually the efficiency of your home, right? Because I think you really need to ask yourself how often you have guests coming in. You know what I mean? Like, when I used to live in Amsterdam for a year and a half, honestly, I really needed a guest room because these Canadians were just cycling through Amsterdam like it was nothing. They were like, free place to stay in Europe? Yes, please. They were just like showing up, I swear, every 2 weeks I had a new guest. So if that's your lifestyle, if that's your system, and you've just got a bunch of really cheap friends and family that are using you for your free home, then yeah, you might need one. But if you're actually just like living in a regular city that people don't visit all that much or whatever, people just don't visit you, then do you need an entire room dedicated to a guest room? Do you know, or is it just a waste of space? This is of course going to depend on you and your lifestyle and your circumstances. Some alternatives though, if you are like, yes, no, I need some sort of a solution because I've got a mother-in-law that comes here all the time, she drives me crazy and I need to have a space for her, or whatever, a sister or a brother that's always mooching. If you have that in your life and you need a solution, I think things to consider would be day beds. I would say things like Murphy beds, which is a much more very expensive but really awesome option if you can do one, or even a pull-out couch, which, yes, pull-out couches generally are quite uncomfortable because what did you expect? They'd managed to fit a freaking bed inside of a couch. Like, where did you think this was going? Do you think it was gonna feel like you're at the Four Seasons? Like, it's not, you know? But you can use that couch for other purposes when not in use. So if you find yourself basically out of 52 weeks out of the year, maybe entertaining guests for 2 or 3 weeks, then maybe you don't actually really need a dedicated guest room or a guest bed at least. And some of these other solutions, like amazing day beds that double as desks, for example, or pull-out couches that can be used, or day beds that can be really awesome, those can really make a big difference. And then you can just pull them out on the occasional use when you actually need them. One of the most ingenious solutions I found was from a company called Bow Concept, and it was basically like a flip version, like it was like a boop, 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 where it like turned an ottoman situation and then you fold it out into a single bed. And I thought that was very clever because an ottoman can actually be used as extra seating perhaps, although we'll get to that in a second, but it also doubles as a bed on the very rare occasion that you actually have somebody. But the dedicated guest bed can be a space waster if you're not too careful. Okay, next on my list is gonna be display cabinets. So remember we talked about visual clutter at the beginning when I did my little intro? Do you remember that? That's maybe what's happening here with these display cabinets. I think that people collect random crap in their home and then they feel guilty about getting rid of it, or they don't want to get rid of it because they like it, and they think that it should be displayed when really perhaps, I'm not saying necessarily, but perhaps it ought not to be. Do you know? Maybe you don't need this stuff. Maybe you're attached to it for sentimental reasons. Maybe you feel guilty. Maybe you feel that you bought it when you went to Disneyland like 14 years ago and I need to hold on to those Mickey Mouse ears or something. I don't know what you have, you know? Maybe that little tiny Eiffel Tower thing that you got because, you know, it was there and they sold it to you at the Eiffel Tower and it was like 10 euros and you got ripped off and now you're like, what do I do with it? I need to hold on to it forever. And you're like, where do I put it? Behold the display cabinet. There she is. She enters the picture and she is there to hold on to all your hopes and dreams and past mistakes to be on display for every guest that walks into your home. These guys are a hot, cluttered mess oftentimes because they provide, like, first of all, they're just like wasting space because they're like taking up so much physical footprint. Like these things are massive and they're there basically just to hold on to all your cluttered things that you've bought in the past. They also provide visual weight, right? So when you're looking in your space, there's positive space and negative space, right? And negative space is really important to have space for where there is nothing there, just space for the eye to rest. And it also makes your positive space, your things that you really want to display and show off, makes those things pop and stand out a little bit more because they're held against the negative space. And it provides balance in a room when you have positive and negative space. Things in your room and space where you have nothing. Display cabinets are positive space, but what they do is if you have too much of it, it can add to a whole lot of visual weight and make your space feel more cluttered than it needs to be. So what do? I say, ask yourself, do I need these items at all? Do I need to hold on to this stuff? And if you do, then think of perhaps some places that you can store it that can either be done beautifully rather than cluttered all into one big thing. Like you can actually display them. Like I'm not saying that those Mickey Mouse ears are necessarily hideous and need to find a new home, but maybe you do want to display some of this stuff. There's ways that you can do it without it feeling sort of so overwhelming into the space and really just cluttered with so much stuff. So that might mean to hold on to mementos in areas of the home that don't necessarily get looked at every single day. Maybe these are items that you just hold on to, but they are kept in a nice cute little box that you maybe look at from time to time and then go from there. But really question the utility for what these things are. Now, if you love them and they show off your home beautifully and you really enjoy them and you love staring at them every single day because it reminds you of some of these amazing trips, then it's not really clutter and it is beautiful stuff that you want to display. Because adding beauty to our space and stuff that you really enjoy looking at is useful. It's useful stuff, and therefore I'm not saying get rid of it completely. Just edit some of this stuff down so that you're making sure that the stuff that is there is stuff you actually enjoy looking at on a regular basis. But oftentimes, as is the case with these display units, it's just full of a bunch of stuff that you haven't edited and you don't know what to do with, and that's the problem. Okay, next on my list is gonna be outdoor kitchens. Now, here's the deal with outdoor kitchens is that oftentimes for a lot of homes, they are redundant. People are out of control, and I'm not gonna single out one, yeah, I am, but I'm single out one country, and that is the United States. Let's be honest, I know half of you are from there and it's a great country. Love you guys down there, but you are losing your minds with the outdoor kitchens. The rest of the world, and I mean, Canadians are pretty bad too, but like I'm looking at the Americans, I'm like, what? How many smokers does one person need? How many different ways can one cook meat outdoors? Like there are so many different things that are out there, you guys, and people just go crazy. And I'm looking in the southern part of the United States most of all, because that is obviously a weather situation where you guys are like outside cooking all the time. If you use these all the time, then go crazy. But the footprint that these things are taking up in one person's backyard, I mean, there's like 7 billion people on the planet. And if we all had outdoor kitchens like that, this planet, we would need a few extra planets just to get through, because it's crazy the size of these outdoor kitchens. They are massive. They are taking up a lot of space. And again, the reason it made this list is question whether this stuff can be done inside the home in your regular kitchen that like you obviously also have. So do you need 2 giant kitchens, I guess is the point. Now, if you have an outdoor piece of equipment that does something different, like a smoker that you really enjoy, but you can't replicate that experience indoors, then fine. But refrigeration, ice machines, wine bars, Coors frickin', what do you got, those stupid little beer dispensary things that people have outside, sparkling water, regular water, pizza ovens, I mean, barbecues, I mean, so many things that are out there that it's the insanity needs to stop. There's lots of different ways that you can replicate a lot of these things and just do that indoors in the regular kitchen that you already have. So I think these are space wasters in my opinion, because they're redundant. Now, if you use them and you love them, go for it. But I do question the amount of tools that people have outdoors when they have the exact same tools indoors. Okay, next on my list is gonna be specialty kitchen appliances. Now, I know I just called y'all out with the outdoor kitchen, which isn't me, but I'm gonna call myself out with this one because you all know I love a specialty kitchen appliance. These things waste space, specifically on the countertop. So let's talk about the countertop kitchen space. You need prep areas to actually be able to cook. And so often there are so many of these, and I am literally, out of everybody that watches my channel, I am the most guilty of this. I love a specialty kitchen appliance. I love it. You give me an egg bite maker, I'm all in. You give me a sous vide, I'm all about it. An air fryer, how many? I'm thinking like, how many do I need? Do I need 2 air fryers? I don't know. Like, what are the things that I can do? What are all the different things that I can do? Do I need a Ninja Creamy? Yes. Is there a Ninja Creamy soft serve? Yes. Do I need that one as well? I mean, maybe. I already have the Ninja Creamy, but maybe I need the soft serve version. I don't know. I'm on TikTok and they're like, oh, but you can turn bananas into soft serve. And I'm like, I know, but I think my blender can do that. And I have multiple blenders. Like, anyway, it's not about me. But the point is that we collectively, I think, all have a problem when it comes to kitchen countertop appliances. And by the way, also side note, Ninja needs to stop. Like, we get it, Ninja. You've done everything. You've done the most. You've done the most. There are so many things that you've created, but like whoever is running that R&D department, you need to calm down and just like take a breather because there's too many appliances and people like me can't keep up anymore. Anyways, we have too many kitchen appliances and they're a waste of space because people display them on their countertops all the time. And I think we need to question whether these appliances are 2 things. 1, pretty, because let's be real, that does matter. If you're on this channel, it does. I'm sorry. If you're here, and I'm just gonna call you out if it's an ugly appliance. If it's a KitchenAid mixer in a beautiful almond color that was a special edition from like Williams and Sonoma, then yes, it's beautiful. Keep it on your countertop because it's nice, so long as you can afford the space for it. But if it's a NutriBullet, that's an ugly piece of plastic. It doesn't make sense to be displayed full time unless you're using it that often, and you're probably not because, well, you don't make that many green smoothies, let's be real. So knowing all that, you've got only this many kitchen appliances, you want to number 1, is it pretty? Okay, is it good looking? Is it aesthetically pleasing? Are you gonna enjoy looking at it every day? 2, are you gonna actually use it every single day? If it's a toaster and you have toast every morning, fine. Even if it's an ugly toaster, go for it, I say. But maybe put it away because it is ugly. But if you do use it every day, possibly. But if you don't use it and it's ugly, store that. Okay, you don't need to. Your Dash little egg bite maker, your waffle iron, how many waffles are you making? You're probably not making it every day and it's not an attractive appliance. Therefore, store that thing. So I think that this is a space waster because so many, I do roast my space where people send in their homes and people's kitchens have like, there's no room to chop a vegetable anymore because it's just full of all these specialty appliances that are ugly and not used every day. Store those guys if you can. And I know you can. Okay, next on my list is gonna be unused exercise equipment. Guys, remember in the pandemic when we all had Pelotons and then maybe we don't use as many Pelotons as we used to? Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everybody went crazy because we were shut out of the gym and everybody bought all that home equipment. And it's kind of like a cliche. Like, I'm not gonna make jokes about it because there's about the fact that your treadmill is now just one big like place to basically store all your dirty laundry. Maybe even your clean laundry, I don't know. Those jokes have been made. Let's be real, it's a joke for a reason. A lot of people don't use this stuff over the long term. Not gonna say everybody, because there's some people that are committed and they're Pelotoning every day with Cody Rigsby and like high five to you, I get it. But a lot of people are just not doing the home exercise thing every single day. And this is obviously a waste of space because it is ugly. Most fitness equipment is, and it's, unless you have a dedicated gym space, probably not something that necessarily fits the motif of what you're looking for. We're all about living in multi-purpose, spaces. We're all a big fan of that. I do think that's a really great trend that we've seen in interior design post-pandemic is like, okay, how can we make our spaces do more? Does a dining room just a dining room, or could it also be something else as well, right? So I think we're taking a look at these guest rooms and these exercise rooms and these offices and thinking like, how can we make them a little bit more multi-purpose? And that's a wonderful thing, but this unused, and that's key, exercise equipment is just quite frankly a waste of space. If you have a garage space or a dedicated gym and you have the room for it, that's awesome. If you have a dedicated room for a gym though, you probably don't really need to watch this video because you have all the space in the world and good for you. But if you are like questioning every square footage in your home to make sure that everything is doing the most, Unused exercise equipment isn't doing the most, okay? There's a lot of other ways that you could probably use that square footage that's a little bit more functional for your home. So second guess this stuff, get it on Facebook Marketplace and make it somebody else's mistake. Okay, next on my list is gonna be Ottomans, Poufs, and Stools. So I mentioned earlier that little multi-purpose little thing from Bow Concept that turns itself into a little Ottoman thing. And I think that's great because it's doing double duty. But a lot of these Ottomans, Poufs, and Stools that people have in their home, I think sometimes, although I love them, okay, to be clear, I do think that they're great. Sometimes I think we need to take a sober second thought and think, how often is this being used as extra seating? This is the thing, right? This is why we all drive SUVs now, because we're all prepared for the fact like, yes, I'm a single person and I barely leave the house, but what if like 4 of my cousins come, I actually do get a boyfriend, and then I'm maybe carting around like his sister, and we're going to Costco one day, and then maybe doing an IKEA trip. Turns out I need seating for 8 and a back seat that can fold down to bring in like whatever, 16 packs of toilet paper. And that reality is that we're like preparing for a life that we don't have. And that sometimes is a problem, and why we're driving cars that are probably way too big, right? We don't need this much space. We don't need to cart around for this ideal world that we do not live in. So I want you to really take a look at your living room, and I want you to think, okay, how many people do I realistically have here? Maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 in a pinch. Focus on like some seating where you like have some flexibility, where like you can consistently like definitely have 4 sitting in your living room, but if you need to, you can bring in chairs from other rooms to make it 6. And sometimes these Ottomans, these stools, these poofs and things are all around. Like Restoration Hardware is bad for this. They've got like usually like 2 giant Ottomans sitting at the front next to the fireplace for seating that no one's honestly ever using. No one's ever using this because it turns out you don't have 12 people over at your house very often. So really question some of this extra seating and whether this is just taking up visual space and literally taking up space that you're tripping over these Ottomans in your living room with these extra stools that no one is sitting on. Also, if they're not comfortable, people are just sitting on the floor because they don't want to sit on your stupid stool, because you bought some wasabi stool and they don't want splinters up their bum, so they would rather sit on the floor instead. So some of these items are just also not practical to actually be used as extra seating. So I want you to think, who's coming to my house? How many seats do I realistically need on a regular basis? Do I have some temporary seating that I can flexibly go up if I need to? But other than that, and also, is it comfortable? And are people actually even using it if they do come over? And if the answer to any of those questions is like no, then ditch it and you probably don't need it. Or store it. Store it in like a closet, or store it in a garage or an extra room. They don't need to be sitting in your living room circulating on a full-time basis. Okay, next up on my list is going to be in the similar vein. We're gonna talk about extra dining room seating. Okay, this is those extra benches, which you all know my long-standing fierce hatred of the dining bench. Still to this day, it burns deep and hot, okay? I hate the dining bench, it's annoying. But dining benches are bad for this, but I'm just talking about extra seating in general around the dining table or the kitchen table, however you sort of structure it. Again, if you're a single person or it's just you and your boyfriend and occasionally you might have another couple over, you probably consistently need seating for 4. Seating for 4 does not mean that you need this giant oak table with 8 chairs around it. You know what I mean? Or even 6 chairs. Because yes, occasionally, twice a year, you may have 6 or 8 people over and actually be using a dining table to host a big dinner, and that's a wonderful thing. But if you're consistently 2 to 4 people, then I would say store that extra storage somewhere else. You know, I did a Roast My Space recently where this person was showing this wonderful little kitchen there, but it was a relatively small kitchen, but they had a table with 6 chairs. And that was one of my things, is I feel like it's a little bit big for a kitchen of that size, because you've got 6 seats, and how often do you have 6 people over? Now, if you do, great, then have the seats, you know what I mean? Then go for it. And if you have all the room in the world, like a massive kitchen, then go ahead, put seating for 12 in there for all I care. You can have the whole Knights of the Round Table because it doesn't matter. You've got such a massive space that you don't really care. You've got extra space for it. But if you're tight on space and you really don't entertain that often, this many people, or you don't have any kids or whatever ever coming over to your house, why do you have seating as if you've got like 14 people coming over? Because it's not gonna happen for you. You don't need it. So consider taking those extra seats and either getting rid of them if you don't need them at all, but most likely I would say take something that's ideal stackable or foldable or something like that, store them somewhere else so that they're not taking up the physical space sort of in your living, kitchen, dining area on a full-time basis. And that's basically what you need to do. Okay, so next on my list is gonna be seating in bedrooms. This is where people, and this looks beautiful on social media, do you know what I mean? Because it's usually in really large bedrooms that you may or may not have. You see these huge rooms, right? You see these huge bedrooms and they have either extra chairs, like a reading nook that probably never gets used, or a bench at the end for like you to sort of put your shoes on or whatever, and you've got a little place there to get yourself organized for the day. My concern with these is that they don't ever get used. I don't think people are ever sitting in these seats. I think they're extremely rare that people are actually using them. Now again, if you've got one of these giant bedrooms built for Instagram, in which case, fabulous, put it in. It's fine. You got the extra storage, so who cares? But if you don't, I don't think this is something you necessarily need, because these are wasting space, because they're not actually really usable. A bed is usable space. You're gonna use that. Trust me, you're gonna use that every single day. The bench at the end is probably not really saving you any space. It's taking up extra space that's probably not really providing a whole lot of functional benefit. It might be aesthetically pleasing, and if you love it, of course keep it, if it's aesthetically pleasing and you just like looking at it. But if you're trying to save on space and you're looking at your room and you're thinking, do I need that extra seat? Do I need that bench at the end of the bed? Probably not necessary. You see this a lot in hotels. It's like, how do I say this? Because I want to get demonetized, but like rhymes with the word buck, okay? And it's not the F word, but it's like rhymes with that. And it's that chair in the corner that's like always really creepy sitting there in the hotels. We're talking about that chair. People have this in their own homes as well. And it's like, what are you doing with these chairs? Don't answer that. But like, what are you using with these chairs really? Is this actually a reading nook that you're using? Are you actually getting you're putting your shoes on there? Or do you get your shoes done put your shoes on at the front door? Which one are you doing? Because think of how you're actually like behaving in your real life and think that space might be better used for something else, or don't have anything there at all. And just it makes the space feel a little bit lighter because you're not cluttering it up with extra furniture that you're never actually using. Okay, next space waster on my list is gonna be gigantic nightstands. So sticking with the bedroom for a second, what's everybody storing in these nightstands? What does Restoration Hardware think that we're doing in there? Like, do they think this is the Palace of Versailles? Like, do you think this is a Henry VIII situation? Like, I don't understand why we have giant nightstands in these grand, massive bedrooms. We don't need it. We don't have that. We're not storing that much. I would wager most people need a little tiny shelf or a little tiny stool for their glasses, a lamp, what else? Glass of water, maybe a book, maybe a Kindle, I don't really know. And then maybe like whatever you want, but like probably not very much. That's probably, you don't need a whole lot more than that. Maybe a Bible or some sort of whatever, some sort of religious text of your choosing. I don't really know what you got over there, but you got something going on next to that nightstand, and that's probably all you need. And that's not really going to be a whole lot going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't really need a whole lot more than that. But these giant nightstands are, first of all, I think eyesores, but second of all, they're just taking up this massive footprint. Some of these things are taking up like half, like it's doubling the width of the bed, because the nightstands are so huge that they're basically half a bed on there. And so I would really question whether that is a good use of your space. I'm not sure that it is. It's taking up a lot of the width of your bed, especially if you have a smaller room. I personally think stick to smaller nightstands. And notes to the retailers out there, could you make some smaller nightstands, please? Because so many of you have, I would say, medium to large nightstands in your repertoire, but it's a real struggle sometimes to find some small, slim nightstands, because not all of us are fortunate enough to have these Henry VIII bedrooms that you have there, and we just don't have the room for it. So a slim nightstand that accomplishes enough for the half dozen items that you need there, in my opinion, is perfect. Kind of hard to come by. I'll link here to some of my favorites, but I do think that these gigantic nightstands are an absolute waste of space, especially if you're in a smaller room. There's no need for them. Okay, next up on my list, this is my final one, you guys, and that is got to be benches. Whether this is really an entryway bench, it could be a bench that you put in a hallway. Just people love benches. They're great for things like storage when they're doing double duty, or they also serve as a place for seating or perhaps even some styling. I don't hate benches. I think it's a fine piece of furniture, but I do think that, similar to what I was saying in terms of at the end of your bed, how you have like, you don't really need much room there because you're probably not really using it. I do think that it's important though to question whether these benches are serving any functional purpose at all. Yes, they can be cute. Yes, if they're using them for storage, I do think that they can be a great storage solution, but so often these benches are put in cluttered zones that are high traffic and are not actually being used at all. So really think twice before putting these in. Think through some of these furniture pieces. How often are they being used? Do you think these are something that are going to be there for every day, or does this end up being something that takes up a lot of room, especially in that high traffic area, and oftentimes becomes a dumping ground, therefore adding to the visual clutter that you're imposing onto your space? So I would really second guess these these guys. Benches can be wonderful. Like I said, they can be really great for offering sort of a temporary place for people to sit, to put on their shoes, to do whatever they need to do. They can offer some storage or whatever, but oftentimes these are a dumping ground for extra crap that you probably don't need. And they're oftentimes a place that just you think you're gonna use, but actually you maybe look at it and you're like, I don't think I've ever sat on that bench. I had a bench in my old place that I really liked, and I kind of had it back here for a while because I had nowhere else to put it. Took up a ton of room. Eventually, about a few weeks ago, I decided to sell it on Facebook Marketplace, and now somebody else can enjoy it because, you know, these things can take up a lot of space, and if you find that you don't use it, it's time to get rid of it. Okay, so that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to the Roast My Space video that I did because it's quite funny and people send in their spaces and you get to take a look at my feedback. And one of them was around that kitchen. The other one is a woman named Vicky, who I just wanna say, when you watch that video, everybody said Vicky was pranking me. Guys, Vicky wasn't pranking me. She lives that way with that skeleton. I'm just telling you, that's true. But I think Vicky's now become part of the lore here on the Nick Lewis channel. So go check out that and you can see what Vicky's done in her living room. It's a doozy. I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.